Welcome on the show, Plus Sports Special on a Saturday. My name is Wale Scott, and of course, it's the eve of the African Nations Cup. It starts tomorrow in Cameroon. Now, we still have some things we have to fix. That team is just not fixed yet. And the Super Eagles caretaker coach, Aston Guavoen, says a lot of work still needs to be done on the Super Eagles attack ahead of the 2021 AFCON in Cameroon, which will commence in 2 days. Well, tomorrow, the Eagles beat Cameroon club Cotton Sports 2-0 in a practice game in Garoua yesterday, and goals from skipper Ahmed Musa and Samuel Chukwueze earned the Eagles a comfortable win. But interim coach Guavoen stated that the coaching crew still needs to work on the attacking third of the team. However, he praised the players for their overall performance. The Eagles' starting 11 for the practice game had the likes of Maduka Okoye, William Troost Ekong, Wilfred Ndidi, Joe Aribo, Chigdera Ejuke, Kelechi Iheanacho, Ahmed Musa, and Taiwo Awoniyi. Now, Gael, that's the attacking guys that we have for now. Odia Igalo is in a silly act right now. You know, he's abandoned training. He says the club Al-Shabaab should have let him go for the Super Eagles. But when you signed a contract with that club, you told them you are retired from international football.
Yes.
You can't just turn around and say, okay, I changed my mind.
Well, most players have a history of saying out loud that they want to make themselves available for call-ups at any given time. Now, at some point during their careers, they will also say, I have retired. But I think the general consensus, the general recognition is that most players, if they feel that they could do both, they will choose to do both. Look, the question is, how much of a heads up did he give the club? Because the club doesn't get to determine whether he has an international career or not. That entirely is between himself and the national team.
But we hear that the club has come out with a statement saying that part of his contract says that he would not be going for that. That was the reason why they actually signed him, knowing that he would not be unavailable during international competition, because he told them he had retired.
Well, that may be true. If that is true, then he should be held accountable to his contract. However, there are always obviously considerations that can be made for a player, because at the end of the day, a lot of these contracts are not completely binding. If they were, players wouldn't just up and leave in the middle of a 4-year contract and say, yes, I'm going somewhere else. Contracts usually mean you serve your term with your terms and conditions with a partner until that contract is done. Now, if someone is available to buy you out, usually it's not up to you to force the move. But a lot of times we see that players do force moves.
But let's move forward. The reason why we're discussing is because Guavoen says he still has a lot of work to do on the attacking force. Dennis would have been a fantastic striker.
Absolutely.
But we hear from the streets, from grapevines, that his family members, one or two of them, actually came out to say, our brother is angry because he was an afterthought.
Yes.
That's why he's angry. He didn't say that, but family members say he was because he was an afterthought when Osimhen was not coming. You guys didn't even put him on the list before. Whether any temporary list or whatever, then Osimhen can't make it, and then he's an afterthought, and call him what he says, I'm not going to come.
Well, sure, you can be sensitive like that, but at the same time, this is a professional job. You play football. It's an honor, not a privilege. It's an honor and a privilege. It's not something you're entitled to. If the team decides to call you up at any given time, you should.
It's called patriotism.
You should at least be happy that they thought of you, because every nation has, well, most nations have abundance of talent. True. To the extent that the big boys have so much that they can't imagine. The likes of Mata, who couldn't play consistently for Spain during their golden era of winning World Cups, winning Euros back to back. But you know, when he did get called up, he didn't go behind the cameras, talk to his family, and have them come out and speak on his behalf as his surrogates, talking about whether he's happy or not. If they call you, you should be happy. It's like the Oscar nomination. If you're nominated but you don't win, it's still an honor.
You still have to go there.
It's still an honor just to be nominated.
Now, we'll come back and talk extensively. I think the biggest hits on the English Premier League with the African stars going for the Nations Cup will be Leicester and Liverpool. Liverpool most hit because his two best strikers, Sadio Mane and Mo Salah, are going. Leicester with Wilfred Ndidi.
It's such a big...
Kelechi Iheanacho, and I think 2 other African players there.
Even if it was just Wilfred Ndidi, last season we saw what happened when Ndidi was injured and out for several months. We saw how
the middle of the pack was fell apart.
Yes, their top 4 ambitions completely fell apart, and they couldn't recover in time even after he got back. Kelechi Iheanacho has become a part of the furniture at how they build play and score goals. If Vardy gets injured, it's over this season for them.
So some coaches spoke though. Patrick Vieira, Jose Enrique, Jurgen Klopp, of course, the most hits, and Tuchel spoke about Mendy and the rest of them going. So the Premier League has bid farewell to many of its African stars as the African Cup of Nations is poised to begin in Cameroon, with the hosts kicking off the tournament against Burkina Faso tomorrow. Liverpool will try and keep on Manchester City's coattails without their potent pair of Mo Salah and Sadio Mane, while Chelsea has keeper Eduardo Mendy and Hakim Ziyech on international duty. The City has just 1 player heading in the tournament, Riyad Mahrez. Arsenal won't have 4 players, including Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, but that won't be too much of a concern for Mikel Arteta after dropping him for disciplinary reasons. And Crystal Palace will miss Wilfred Zaha, Chiku Kouyaté, and Jordan Ayew. But their manager, Patrick Vieira, says he'd never give a thought to stopping them from going to the tournament. The French international, who was the 1998 World Cup, was born in Senegal. Like we said before, every team has a key player going to the Nations Cup. Love it or leave it. Yes, he's been the prodigal child right now. But Arsenal without Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang on a good day. Thomas Partey. El Neni. And then we're looking at Chelsea, who definitely have relied on Mendy too many times to save them. We're looking at, of course, Mo Salah and Sadio Mane from Liverpool. Some teams will suffer this period. There's no way teams won't drop points.
Yes, and I think about the Arsenal situation, we've not talked enough about, because we've been so focused on the title race, that we've not talked about a major race that's currently going on. 3 teams are vying for the top 4 spot. Tottenham, Arsenal and Manchester United. This might be the opportunity for both Tottenham and Manchester United, who are not really missing anybody, to really stake a claim, because Arsenal have been on a run. Without Thomas Partey, without Aubameyang on a bad day, being a manager who can rely on him, without those 2 players, and then there's El Nani, who's a good squad player. Without those 3 players, there's always a chance that they will drop off. Their form
I don't see it
will
really affecting Arsenal the way it would affect Liverpool and other teams, because really he's got Smith Rowe, who's on fire.
Look, don't forget
Lacazette is still there.
Don't forget that Thomas Partey is the safety net in that midfield.
True that.
Xhaka is oft to get red cards, make reckless challenges, and Thomas Partey was bought as the final piece to secure the defensive stability of the midfield. Without him in the team, even when he's playing badly, you see how badly the whole team plays. When he plays well, Xhaka looks much better, a much better player than he ordinarily is. And I think this just highlights the fact that the Nations Cup should be, by now...
I was going to ask you that. You were talking about the timing.
Yes, FIFA by now should have established a rule that says all international competitions should be slated for the summer when there's plenty of room. The problem is that they're trying not to compete for viewership with the Euros, with the Olympics, with the World Cup, all of which are exchanging years for when they run. But ultimately, you're going to have to compete with someone. Even the Confederations Cup, even though it's not as popular to watch, they still know that they have to play in the summer. They don't want to create a situation where, because what happens if teams start making major considerations? Should I buy an African player when I know I'm going to lose him in a couple years to the Nations Cup at a very critical juncture? If teams start adding that to their calculus of considerations, what are we going to say? That it's racism? No, it's not. It's not. Just a business, and you have to make best choices, best practices for your club to succeed at critical junctures in the season.
Well, now, this is really sad, because I've always said that the reason why the Nations Cup is doing this, it actually gives them as if they have an inferiority complex. And like what Klopp said, Klopp didn't mean it that way, but
it might feel like to them they have leverage, but they don't, because FIFA will allow them to keep that, especially with the FIFA president trying to get a biennial World Cup going, and he needs the African bloc's support. He won't touch that situation, even though we've all complained about it. We're Africans and we're complaining about it. We imagine the grumblings that Europeans are having about this competition happening at this time.
I like Klopp's attitude though, because he's losing undoubtedly without Sadio Mane and Mo Salah for 6 matches or 5 matches. It will tell on Liverpool.
Yes.
There's no way. But now, it's not all rosy in Cameroon right now. There are 2 different people there, the Francophone and the Anglophone. And we hear the Anglophone guys are going separate. They are going rogue and saying we want our own republic, our own federation. And it's going to be called Ambazonia. And on the side, it's just a joke. I don't know if it sounds like a joke though. But I heard one of our pastors saying that he foresees violence in one of the stadiums in Cameroon.
I don't even know if that can be something you call a prophecy, because I think
it's obvious that it might happen.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a place called Limbe in Cameroon where separatists have threatened that when the games start, we will.
Even if all they do is light a firecracker, a few bangers left and right, the point isn't how loud the explosion is or the gunshots. It's about the feeling that you create in the population about their safety not being guaranteed. And if you create that, even with the smallest act, whether people's lives are lost or not, it still affects the reputation, the symbolism of what the competition is supposed to represent, and it affects whether players will be.
I was even telling someone yesterday, I don't know if that happens to you, but it happens to me all of the time. And it happens to my daughter too. When I see 3, 4 military presence and they are all carrying guns, I don't feel easy. I'm not a criminal, but I just don't feel easy. So I can imagine if Limbe is going to be packed full with a military presence, all the guns, fans won't be easy. Even the players won't feel easy. That's too much security.
You shouldn't feel at ease at the sight of a gun. You shouldn't feel at ease when men in whatever uniforms they are wearing, whether they're not even wearing uniforms, are carrying assault rifles, side pistols.
But really, anything could go wrong.
Anything could go wrong, and friendly fire is, we call it friendly fire, but there's nothing friendly about
it. It kills.
Yes, people still die from friendly fires, and if you just, at the end of the day, all you end up as is a number on a list of casualties.
You, my fan out there, will have an idea of what Limbe would look like when the games starts. When the game starts, you will find out what Limbe will look like. So if you were a fan, would you feel comfortable watching the match in that scenario? I have my fears, and you can't blame me. Sudan and Mauritania are supposed to be training in a place called Goa. That place was bombed 2 months ago. And how do you expect these guys to train there and be comfortable training there, knowing that this place was bombed a few days ago or a few months ago? I don't know how.
What I wonder is what the conversations and the discussions held before the competition's location and venue was determined, what those conversations sounded like. Did security concerns ever come up? Did anyone in a significant position of voice, did they use it to speak up about how this is such a dangerous thing to be doing in a venue that is definitely going to be problematic to secure every axis of it? How are they certain that lives aren't going to be lost? Were any of these questions asked? I wonder, because we saw during the Confederations Cup last year, questions being raised about whether, the Copa America, whether the Brazil was the right location, the right place to be hosting, given the record numbers of COVID-19 cases that kept spiking.
But even in China, we're talking about how they were treating Muslim augurs there and all that, but it still went on. This thing just died down after a while.
Yeah, but you see, these are political considerations. We're talking about a football consideration. The fact is, Brazil holds a significant amount of power amongst the Copa America countries. True. And once they decided long ago that they were going to host the competition there, I can understand that a brief moment of spikes, because those are natural, that is a natural thing going on. Cases of COVID-19, that's an act of God. You can't avoid it. If you moved it to Argentina, the next day record cases could start spiking in Argentina. But these are entirely man-made problems. Can we avoid these man-made problems playing a major impact on the viability, the reputation, the continuity of the sports, the games at this critical juncture?
Well, at a point, Samuel Eto'o came out and said one of the reasons why Limbe was picked as a venue is because they are shouting marginalization. So if we don't take it to Limbe, you guys will say,
yes.
Yeah. So they're taking it there now, but there's still fears that these guys will...
But the thing with extremist violence is that you cannot pacify them. The truth is, they say we're being marginalized, so you bring economic prosperity to their region. Okay, what does that say? It means if I use violence, I can get my way.
True.
And if you give them what they want, regardless of whether they feel emboldened to carry on, they will now have an understanding that maybe, because the thing about prosperity is that it fills you with a sense of entitlement. You feel like life can always be better. The happiest people in the world are oftentimes the people who have very little, because they find joy and peace in the simplest
contented
things.
With what they have.
Yes. But as soon as you expose them to their neighbors, and their neighbors are doing better, their neighbors are building mansions all around them, suddenly a question gets asked, why am I not being able to build a mansion?
Wow. Now this stunned me, and I'm sure it stunned a whole lot of people too. Borussia Mochengladbach once again underlined their reputation as Bayern Munich's boogie team after coming from behind to win 2-1 in the matchday 18 opener on Friday. Their 6th win in their last 11 meetings with the record German champions. It doesn't matter what team Mochengladbach field, they will beat Bayern Munich.
The thing is, Bayern Munich seem to have a couple boogie teams in the league. Occasionally, Bielefeld will pull a stunner on them. Even when Union Berlin is having tough times, not scoring enough goals, not being strong enough during the season, they sometimes pull up on Bayern Munich and stun them. Now, Mönchengladbach, Leverkusen, Augsburg, Stuttgart, and Dortmund, these are teams that are playing some of the very best football outside of Bayern Munich. And these teams are all capable of beating Bayern Munich. Okay, obviously, most times when we see Bayern play against someone like Dortmund, they bring out their biggest guns, they play their best football. True. The game might end 5-3, but Bayern have ensured that they won that game against the likes of Leverkusen, who are very capable of scoring goals. Same results might happen: 3-1, 3-2, 4-2, 4-3. But Mönchengladbach, they've done this in recent times so often that clearly they have Bayern Munich's number.
They have their pin code. Okay. Now, this is another man who has a fairy tale story. Aston Villa has signed Brazilian international Phillipe Coutinho on a loan deal until the end of the season from La Liga side Barcelona. Now, the agreements include the option to make the deal permanent, Villa has added. Now, Coutinho previously spent 6 years in the Premier League playing for Liverpool and will unite with former captain Steven Gerrard at Villa Park. Now, I'll tell you what I mean by Coutinho has a fairy tale story. Coutinho went to Barcelona, couldn't get his feet on the ground quick enough. They loaned him to Bayern Munich. Then Bayern Munich and Barcelona met in the finals of the Champions League. Coutinho had a cameo appearance and Bayern Munich beat Barcelona.
And even scored.
And after the match, he went back to Barcelona.
You see, the thing about Barcelona and the Coutinho relationship is that they completely damaged his confidence. Remember when Fabregas was first in the Premier League? He played for Arsenal for a number of years, even coached, captained the team for many years before leaving. He was an outstanding, undisputed legend of the midfield. He could create chances. And you saw how good he was, again, when he came back to England and joined Chelsea. He was still a major point. In fact, it was the final piece. Once Mourinho managed to buy him, he was the final piece to winning that league the second season he was there. He linked the midfield and the attack so
we can
seamlessly.
count many players like that who traveled abroad. Fabregas, like you said, Eden Hazard, Phillipe Coutinho, were fantastic players.
But the thing is, it seems like Spanish football cannot cope with the kind of direct football that midfielders from English football bring to the table. Coutinho could split open a defense, either by dribbling or laying through a pass. But when he arrived at Barcelona, everything went through Messi. That defense splitting run that he could make, no one needs it because they like to keep their wingers on the wing. And they wanted to play him as a winger rather than a central midfielder, where he would have had plenty of opportunities to play more like an Iniesta, run through the middle, lay off passes, but they don't need it. They like to stretch their opposition wide, use their wingers to stretch them, and then pressure them through with underlapping runs or overlapping runs. Unfortunately, Coutinho could not fit into that. And another thing, it seems like at Barcelona, you could finish the season with 20 goals, even though you're not a striker. Griezmann in his first season finished with over 20 goals. And he was still criticized throughout the season as though he wasn't good enough. And we saw how badly they started playing once he moved to Atletico Madrid. And at Atletico Madrid, he has been fantastic. The fans initially resisted because they felt betrayed when he left Barcelona originally. But after a few games, after putting in splendid performances, showing that he was willing to work for the team, they fell back in love with him.
Let's look at other Newcastle had a signing, and that's their first signing, but they signed a 33-year-old man as their first signing. But we expect them to spend more money. They have the money.
I suspected before the Aston Villa Coutinho deal was signed, I suspected they would be the ones trying to loan Coutinho. Certainly a clever option, someone who knows how to create in that number 10 role.
And he'll be on loan. So if he doesn't do well, he can actually just go back.
Yes, exactly.
Well, some tennis, and I was surprised by this one when I watched it last night. Former world number 9, Roberto Bautista Agut, edged past Poland's Hubert Hukackz, 7-6, 6-2, 6-7, 6-5, in a thrilling contest to fire Spain to their second ATP Cup final in 3 years. Spain went down to Serbia in the championship match in the inaugural edition of the team event in 2020. Will meet either defending champions Russia or Canada in Sunday's final. Bautista Agut, who is 33, came into the match with a 2-0 head-to-head record against world number 9 Hukackz, who had to dig deep to earn the victory after a high-quality match that lasted 2 hours and 44 minutes. Poland was dealt a blow even before they took the court to the court for the semi-finals with Kamil Majrzak, who won all 3 of his singles matches at this year's tournament, ruled out after testing positive for the novel coronavirus. Jan Zielinski, who had never played a tour-level singles match before Friday, replaced Majrzak for the opening singles, but it was no match for Pablo Carrero Busta. This says a lot about this Spanish team. They are in the finals for the second time in 3 years. They were stopped by, last time they were in the finals, they were stopped by Serbia, a Novak-inspired Serbia. Unfortunately, Serbia has crashed out already because obviously he wasn't inspired by Novak. And I was joking with someone this morning. The person said, why are we all surprised because of Djokovic's no vaccination? After all, his first name is Novak. So really, but Spain are in the finals again. They will meet either Canada. I suspect Canada though. And this shows how good this team is. These guys are not big boys. They're not ranked high. Agut, Busta, but they make it happen when they come as a team.
Ultimately, I think when it comes to playing as a team, they show that combined, they are capable of beating most any team. Obviously, as individuals, we look at their ranking in the ATP and decide whether they're good enough to beat any other player. But of course, the surprises can happen. But when there's a team dynamic at play and a team like Serbia is dependent on one major star, but the Spain is dependent on everyone pulling in the same direction, maybe they're all even level in terms of quality, but ultimately when they work together, they're more capable of overthrowing the big boys in the game. So I'm not surprised that Spain are in the second final in 3 years.
I suspect they will win this one because I don't see any of the two other, one of the, that Canada or something, taking them out. It was only Serbia that was good enough for them last year to have beat them, and they did beat them.
Well, I mean, anything can happen. The truth is, we are at a very delicate time in tennis. Somebody could come out with a positive COVID-19 test. Because we know that the vaccination is not 100% at preventing infection. It can prevent big, significant harm being done to the human body, but the Omicron variant is still very much out there. People are still getting it even while vaccinated. A lot of them are not going to the hospital with severe breakdown, but obviously they can still pass on the virus.
Okay, I said it a few years ago that this guy will be the future of tennis. And then it started blowing hot. Tomorrow it blows cold. Top seed Gael Monfils is into the semi-finals of the men's Adelaide ATP 250 event after beating American Tommy Paul. The Frenchman, who beat Paul 6-4, 6-1, will take on local hope and wildcard Hukackz on Sunday. Australian Hukackz beat Sweden's Mikaela Yimaro 7-6, 9, 4-6, 6-4. Second seed Karen Khachanov saw off Belarusian qualifier Igor Gerasimov 7-5, 6-3. To set up a last four meeting with third seed Marin Cilic, who rolled past Serbia's Laslo Djere 6-3, 6-2. If you are watching this show right now, Gael Monfils is a fantastic tennis player. But if you bet, please don't bet on him. I predicted a few years ago that this guy will be the future of tennis. And then the guy came out smoking hot. And after I went, he will blow cold today. Lord, that's why I said if they bet, don't bet on Gael Monfils. Just when you think it's make it happen.
You know, you make fun of me for supporting this guy, but I think for you, this is your Andy Murray.
Well, that comparison I like.
It has a lot of expectations on his shoulders, shows glimpses of the potential he's capable of exerting on his opposition, and then occasionally he falls short just when
this guy came out at 16, the press in France called him the French dancer. He will dance you around you and he will blow hot, and then next
you know what it is about people who are born great? Oftentimes they burn really hot, but then they burn really quick.
True that. Plus Sports Special on Plus TV Africa. Join us same time next week for another edition. Thank you very much, Francis Indem. Thank you very much, Mayowa. Thank you very much, Kay. Thank you very much, Lawal. This program, of course, was produced by Toby Olushola. Mukal, thank you.
Always.
My name is Wally Scott. Till next week, like I always advise you at the end of every show, if not for anything, at least for your hearts, do some sports.